With so many drawing materials available today, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Many tools look similar, yet they behave very differently once they touch the paper. In this video, we'll compare Conté crayon and compressed charcoal through the idea of precision versus expression. If you have ever wondered which one to choose, this comparison will help you understand not just the materials, but how each one shapes the way you draw. We'll break down what they are made of, how they behave on paper, and which techniques they naturally support. If you are totally new to charcoal, I also have a separate introduction to charcoal drawing that you can watch first. Let's start with the Conté. Conté crayons are made from pigment, mixed with clay and a binder, pressed into firm square sticks. The method was patented in 1795 by Nicolas Jacques Conté, the inventor of the modern graphite pencil. Because of their composition, Conté sits somewhere between graphite and charcoal in hardness. In terms of color, Conté is available in black, white, sanguine, sepia, and bistre. Artists such as Ingres and Degas used the Conté to articulate planes and refine contours in heads and figures. However, it can also be used more expressively, for example, in block-ins and atmospheric tonal passages as seen in Sarah's drawings. Compressed charcoal, on the other hand, is made from ground charcoal powder mixed with a binder and pressed into sticks. It's softer, darker, and much more responsive on the surface. It is usually limited to black, emphasizing dramatic value contrast and atmosphere rather than color variation. On paper, Conté feels dry and slightly waxy, with a bit of resistance as you draw. The marks are matte and non-shiny, unlike a graphite. What makes Conté special is control. With the edge, you can get clean, precise lines for contours and construction. Because of its firmness, Conté can maintain a sharp edge and be shaped to a fine point, making it well suited for controlled line work, structural contours, and cross-hatching without heavy smudging. It is particularly useful when constructing forms such as heads, figures, and perspective studies. In behavior, it's closer to hard pastels such as nu pastel than to traditional charcoal. Now let's compare this with the compressed charcoal. As soon as it touches the paper, it deposits pigment quickly and produces deep, velvety blacks. With compressed charcoal, you will immediately notice three things. It lays down very dark values quickly. It smudges easily. It's harder to get back to pure white once it's there. Rather than focusing too much on the messiness of compressed charcoal, try to think instead about what this medium can do that others cannot. Its very characteristics can become advantageous. Artists often turn to compressed charcoal when they want bold value contrasts and expressive tonal effects. It allows large shadow shapes to be established quickly and produces rich, velvety darks that are difficult to achieve with many other drawing materials. Because compressed charcoal deposits pigment so easily, you can work on a large scale much more quickly. The charcoal spreads effortlessly across the paper, allowing you to block in broad tonal masses with just a few strokes. One common approach is subtractive drawing. Instead of beginning with lines, you first tone an area of paper with charcoal. You can smooth it out with a cloth. Then, using a kneaded eraser or other tools, you can lift the light back out of the dark surface. In this process, the drawing is built by removing light from shadow, rather than adding dark marks onto white paper. The fact that charcoal smudges easily becomes useful here. You can intentionally spread and soften the pigment with a cloth or your hand to create broad, atmospheric tonal areas in very little time. And because compressed charcoal doesn't erase cleanly, it naturally encourages a more direct, emotional, and spontaneous approach to drawing, one that focuses on mass, movement, and bold decisions rather than small corrections and fine details. Compressed charcoal also shines when you use the side of the stick to block in broad tonal areas and large shadow shapes. This demo starts with a rough sketch of an arm with a fine charcoal before defining it with a compressed charcoal. This stroke was made with a square compressed charcoal stick by pressing one corner of the stick against the paper. Because the pressure is concentrated on one edge of the stick, that side deposits more pigment, creating a darker value, while the opposite side leaves a lighter tone. This naturally creates a value gradation within a single stroke. The darker edge suggests the shadow side of the form, while the lighter edge turns toward the light. In this way, a single stroke can already describe the volume of the form. When the stroke follows the direction of the form, as you see along the arm here, it reinforces the structure and helps the form read more clearly as three-dimensional. For the background, you can apply even, consistent strokes to build the flat value. This helps create a calm, unified background. Can you combine them? Yes, you can combine Conté crayons and compressed charcoal in the same drawing. However, because the two materials use different binders, gum-based binders in compressed charcoal, and wax or clay-based binders in Conté, the order in which they are applied can affect how well they work together. Based on my tests and practical experience, here are 3 important points to remember. Apply charcoal first. When layering the two materials, it is generally best to apply compressed charcoal first. Conté contains a waxy binder that can create a slightly sleek surface. If it's laid down first and fills the tooth of the paper, charcoal may resist the surface and fail to produce its characteristic deep blacks. In my test, charcoal placed over a Conté layer appeared noticeably weaker and less rich. Do you see the difference? A practical approach is to use compressed charcoal for broader areas and expressive tonal passages, while reserving Conté for controlled lines and refined details. In my own drawings, I tend to use Conté for more delicate or controlled areas, and compressed charcoal for larger tonal passages and more expressive strokes. These materials also behave differently depending on the drawing surface. Compressed charcoal works best on papers with enough tools to hold the pigments securely. Rough textured newsprint is excellent to practice. It is also important to remember that compressed charcoal cannot be completely erased once it settles into the paper. Because of this, it's best to avoid placing it in areas that may require major corrections later in the drawing. Conté tends to work well on smooth to medium tooth papers and on toned paper, where you can combine it with white highlights. In simple terms, Conté supports structure and precision. Compressed charcoal supports mass and expressive tone. Neither is better. They simply serve different artistic intentions.